and welcome to AffroVlogs. In today's episode, I'm going to be doing something a little bit interesting here. Now, a lot of you guys may know that I love Resident Evil. Resident Evil is one of the best franchises ever made for horror, and it really has revitalised survival horror. It's also just a plain great video game franchise and one which deserves a lot of praise. That being said, my history with the franchise is so weird and so bizarre that it's going to take me an hour to explain. But of course you guys won't be here for that, so instead let's condense all of that and make it about 10 to 15 minutes, or maybe even less if we're lucky. So guys, in today's episode, let's talk about that. How on earth did I get into this franchise in the first place? The story begins in 2007. Yes, only 10 years ago folks, can you believe that? 10 years ago I had no idea what Resident Evil was, and 10 years ago I was at the point where I was still guided by my parents what games I could and couldn't play. Now, at this point I was 14 years old, and it got to the point where my parents were a bit more relaxed about that, so I could now finally play 15 games. So how did I find Resident Evil then? Well, on GameSpot there was a video section and you could watch all kinds of videos back in the day. This was before I found YouTube, so that was my primary video source. So I went onto GameSpot, typed in some games, and I stumbled upon a video called Wesker's Report. Now, Wesker's Report is simply summing up the game's story so far up to Resident Evil Code Veronica. I didn't know this obviously, so I just kind of watched it, and I got so scared I turned it off after about after 30 seconds. Because I was unprepared for what I was going to see, and there was no context to what I was watching, so I turned it off. So then, ironically, about 6 months after that, it was now early 2008, the 5th game was on its way, and my friend had bought Resident Evil 4 for the Wii. Now, I had a Wii in 2008 as well, and he recommended the game to me, and he said, "Oh John, you'd love this is a great game, but I haven't completed it yet, so my task for you is to see if you can complete that same game within the time that you borrow it, which was 5 days." And I took the game home, and using the Wii controls, I was like this, and I was getting ready to kick some ass. And of course, oh my god, the experience the first time was absolutely crazy. There were zombies everywhere who ended up actually being humans. I was blowing their heads off. I fought sharks. I fought all kinds of enemies which I never anticipated. And then when you factor in the scary mood of the game, the environment, the sound effects, the music, the constant scares, it was just an incredible experience to me at the time, and I couldn't believe what I was playing. As time went on, I grew more confident in what I was doing and what I was playing, and eventually I was kicking all sorts of ass. In fact, after just 3 short days, I completed the game. I say 3 short days, I was playing the game pretty much the whole day when I played the game. So actually it wasn't short, it was long. But I completed the game, and then I got to play some extra modes which my friend never played. So there's a mode in the Wii version called Assignment Ada or something like that, and Ada obviously talks to Albert Wesker, taking orders from him. That's when I made the connection with the earlier Wesker's Report. I realised that the Wesker's Report was part of the same franchise, the same universe. So after I returned the game and got my own version, I went back to Wesker's Report and watched it. I was really interested in the whole Raccoon City scenario and how the Star members discovered this whole virus in the Arklay Mountains in the Spencer Mansion. So at that point my curiosity was through the roof. I was so curious. I was watching not only that video every single day, I was also finding gameplay videos of Resident Evil 2 and 1, and I was so dead set on getting this game, but because of money issues at the time, I couldn't do so. Luckily, on GameSpot, they also used to have demos on PC games, and Resident Evil 2 just so happened to have a demo version on the PC. So I downloaded it, and immediately I put the game away because I was so scared, and the keyboard layout was so unfamiliar to me. I had no idea what I was doing, so I ended up just dying over and over again without even knowing how to shoot. Eventually though, about a week later, I persevered and went back into the game, learned how to actually play the game looking at the manual, and I was kicking ass eventually. Now, the game only had a 10-minute demo time, so I couldn't spend a lot of time on it, but I got as far as the police station and to the part where you meet Marvin Bravner, obviously the guy who now is called Will Smith. And after that I was desperate to play the game again and to get further. But this is where the history kind of changes a bit here, because even though I was so dead set on Resident Evil 2, I then learned there was a game called Resident Evil Code Veronica, the game that I mentioned earlier. So I ended up buying that game on PS2 first in a store. I think it was either the CX store or the Game Station store at the time, but regardless, I bought that game first, and immediately I put that game away as well, because even though I knew the controls better, I just kept dying over and over again, and I got stuck so frequently that I just got frustrated. So I went back to Resident Evil 2, and this is where I discovered YouTube. At this point, this is now 2010 at this point, and I discovered two YouTubers. One was called Koloskia, and one was called Necroscope86. Now, I've actually met Necroscope86 before. I've met him 2 or 3 times now, and he's an amazing guy and a great YouTuber as well. But it was him and Koloskia who I discovered their Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2 Let's Plays respectively. And because I finally did buy Resident Evil 2 and I was also struggling with that game as well, I used Necroscope's Let's Play to help me get through that. And because of that, not only did I get into YouTube and those people in particular, but I was getting more and more and more into Resident Evil 2. After I completed the game the first time, I wanted to do the game faster because I felt I could do better, so I was getting A ranks left, right and centre. But this is where a lot of things change for me now. Now it's gone from being a good game and getting into the game and its series into getting into the story. The story for me was just so well told and so interesting despite the poor voice acting, that I really wanted so much more. So in the end, I decided not only was I going to play the games and get all the games to kind of know the story, and to play the games of course to see how good they were, but I wanted to know more about the history of the franchise. Now, the best way to know the history of the franchise, obviously today, would be through YouTube videos and reading the Wikipedia page, but at the time I had no idea those things existed, so I had to rely upon the books that the game provided for you within the game's universe. And with that as well, I was learning about Leon S. Kennedy, Claire Redfield, Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Barry Burton, and of course all of the other STARS members, Albert Wesker, the main villain, the T-Virus, Nemesis, all sorts of things. And it's just amazing how entailed I was, how embodied I was within this franchise. This is probably the only franchise where I actually care so much about the early story that I literally did everything I could to really get myself interested and involved within the story. But then after that, I got into Resident Evil 1 and discovered its awful voice acting, but loved it so much for the same reason. I finally got around to playing Resident Evil 3, I played Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, and essentially after that early history, the rest is then essentially history. I got proper into the games, I found out all sorts of story tips and things. I got so far into knowing what the stories was, I actually went back into how the guys got into development and how they developed the whole idea and what their roles were. And basically, it goes on and on and on. But essentially folks, that is my Resident Evil history. If you're wondering why I didn't go past Resident Evil 4, it's because in terms of story and the gameplay, I feel that the raw essence of survival horror for me wasn't recaptured until Resident Evil 7, so for the most part I disregard the later sequels apart from 5. 5 is still good, but only if you play with 2 people, or if you play co-op, sorry. And then Resident Evil 6 is a train wreck, and then the spin-off games, aside from the Outbreak games, were kind of rubbish in my opinion. But the first 4 or 5 games in the series were the absolute top of the class qualities of survival horror games, and I will always cherish those games and their story. But guys, that's the end of my story, so hopefully you found it interesting. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other games or even comic books or films that you love the franchise of so much that you were dedicated to learning pretty much everything about it. If you like this video, give it a like, and of course, if you love content like this and a lot more, don't forget that subscribe button is waiting for you. But until next time folks, this has been AffroVlogs. Goodbye! Hello guys, and welcome to the end of the video. Now, if you guys have made it here, pat yourself on the back. Good job, man. Excellent. If you guys like the content you've seen today, there's some more content towards the side of me here, so hopefully you guys will have more to watch from me. But until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.